Hey guys, and welcome to FanCast. We're very grateful to be recording from the historic St Kilda Sports Club, the oldest locker room in the Southern Hemisphere. Join us on the bench where we talk all things footy. We're fans, and this is FanCast. G'day FanCasters, and welcome to another episode here on the pod where we have a proper footy chat. Today we are joined by three very special guests here on the bench. It's not a couch, it's not a chair, it's a bench. Thank you for reminding me, Dave. And we're continuously keeping it locked in here. This is a bench, and we've got some very special people on here. I've got two pies and a cat. It's interesting timing for me, but hey, it is what it is. We roll with the punches, and we're going to have a lot of punches maybe thrown tonight. Only by words, only in words. And that's why we're sitting this way currently as we got here. We've got, of course, Anthony and Caleb here next to me. How are we doing, boys?
Doing good, mate. Thanks for having us on.
Very good. Happy to be here. Very excited. We're in the locker room and the ambience is nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes, these are the face of Pies Footy, ladies and gentlemen. On the other side, of course, we've got Paul from the Hoops Crew. How's it going, Paul?
It's good. I won't rub it in too much, but obviously we just banked the win against you guys. Yes. So if there's any punches thrown, it's only coming my way at the moment, and I'll be ready to dodge those.
Mate, he's all over. And that's why we've got it set up, because I can't reach that far. But hey, there's been a lot of punches going around in social media recently, that's for sure. And the general footballing public in general has just been going up in arms. But we move, we roll, we want to a new week. But before we do that, we're here talking all things football here on the channel. But of course, we don't start with that. We start with our guests. Paul, seeing as I started with you last, we'll start with you first. How did your channel come about, man?
To be honest, I didn't start it. So Ben Reeve, who I think you've chatted to in the past, potentially about coming on, but he actually lives out in Geelong. So it's a bit larger commute for him. He'd been running the channel for, I guess, maybe 6 months, 12 months even before I'd kind of surfaced. He was kind of doing a lot of top tens and kind of, sorry, Ben, simple stuff. But then we found ourselves in conversation. I run a show outside of the footy realm. I run a whole bunch of stuff, around video games. And one particular series I was doing was all around one-on-one interviews with game developers. Ooh. And I found myself chatting to Ben with a bit of a connection to the Geelong Footy Club. My granddad played for them. Going, all right, well, maybe we could kind of translate that idea but apply it to footy, because I love footy as well. And so that kind of became Behind the Play, a show that I host on the channel there, and segued in. And now I'm doing a whole range of different content that fuels our Patreon, that fuels just the day-to-day. There's a whole bunch of awesome stuff. It's been a great ride. So really, really happy.
Absolutely. When did this start?
I got on board 2 years ago. 2 years ago. About 2 years ago from now.
Coming off a flag? We got a flag there?
Yeah, it was sometime during that year, I think. I've lost track now. A bit of a blur, 2022. It was a good year.
The asterisk years, dare I say. And that's why, Melbourne, I'm sorry, your flag isn't legitimate.
Same with 2020. Didn't happen.
Same with 2020.
Didn't happen.
Crazy.
Mate, your flag did not come in the COVID year. Your flag came in a very good year for you boys. How did your channel come about?
Well, obviously, firstly, the 2023 flag obviously didn't come easy, and I think we've been able to cherish.
Sorry about the
in recent time. Yeah, maybe Collingwood robbed the general AFL world with a potential grand final between Geelong and Collingwood in 2022. Not to be.
It would have been the best game of the world.
Yeah. I mean, Collingwood have a habit in robbing the AFL with decent grand finals. You look at 2019, GWS and Richmond. But anyways, maybe we can save that conversation for another day. But I guess Pies Footy, the inception of it, I guess, probably came from the sense that, first and foremost, we're diehard Collingwood fans. That's the most important thing. I guess that's the foundation of the inception of the channel. It just started quite simply, just heading down to Collingwood's training ground and getting some footage in the pre-season. I find that there's a bit of a shortcoming of content when it comes to specific AFL clubs, and you have to typically resort to your 360s and you're on the couches if you really want to, scratch that itch. So I figured, well, I have a proclivity to get around the YouTube scene. So I figured Collingwood content might be worthy of it, and went down a route of match previews, reviews, a couple documentaries. The Nick Dacos one I did quite well. And then it got to a point where I sort of wanted to expand and bring someone very close in my life on board onto the channel who shares the same passion with me for Collingwood. And that's obviously Caleb to the left of me, the right of you.
Yep.
And we decided we're going to embark on some podcast work, which is the Pies Eyes podcast now, which is we're really thoroughly enjoying. And then we've also gone down into the realm of the live stream scene where we do your pre-game shows, your watch-alongs. What else do we do, brother? The Moving the Magnets pie performers.
Pie performers.
Yes, and then roasting sessions.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
anyone that's, not a Collingwood supporter that comes into the live streams,
It's a community
they might
favourite, I'm
get
sure.
a little bit roasted. But yeah, no, it's been a good journey so far, even though it's only been 4 or 5 months. But yeah, it was just a good process where Anthony set it up. I just had to come in, swoop in,
Look pretty.
and look good, chat. And, the rest is kind of history. And the formula is, and I've said it, on the podcast and the live streams before, I get to do a podcast or get to talk about my beloved Pies. And if I get to do it with my best mate, then, hey, that's not too bad. So
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. So, and definitely there's a massive pickup, I think, as you're saying, identifying that there's more room now and there's more opportunity for fans to get online, to spend more time, I suppose, interacting with fellow fans and really talking about, I suppose, a common love for your particular team. And as you say, you don't really want to be sitting there waiting for the 360s with Slobbo trying to tell you something. You listen to any half of what he has to say and it's just like, what am I doing here? Why am I listening to this?
A tough
And,
watch.
and you've got Jared trying to keep him in line. But, Jared's a sense of reason, but no one wants to hear more than from people who genuinely know most about their club. And that would be the people like you guys who follow everything about your team. You follow the VFL, you follow the training reports, and you are emotionally invested into it. So I'm just going to say a big thanks to you guys. I know none of you have Essendon channels, but the fact that all of you, sorry about that. Yeah, apology accepted. But you provide so much for the broader AFL community. And despite the AFL being an absolute basket case and being unable to run itself, it's the fans and the lovers of the game like you guys that help to keep bringing fans to the to the footy as well. So massive thanks to you guys.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
yeah,
Very
cheers. Yeah, I think the good thing about being able to run a channel like this, I think AFL fans deserve that something that isn't just surface level. I think the mainstream media, a lot of it is surface level. And if you just follow the footy a little bit, you kind of can predict what they're saying. So we like to come in and give a point of view where it can go that little bit deeper, get engagement with the community, with the fans. And I think that's where a lot of the YouTube community can really strive moving forward.
Well, you're 100% right? Because you've got the top level, the mainstream media, where, again, it's very top level because they've got to kind of cover everything, which means you just can't cover everything comprehensively.
Yeah.
Of course.
Then you get the actual club-specific media, whether it's Geelong or Collingwood or Essendon, whoever it happens to be, where they can say their piece, but at the same time, they've got to say it with a filter because there's certain
100%.
PR or marketing or whatever those barriers and obstacles might happen to be. And then you've got the Geelong supporter, the Collingwood supporter, the Essendon supporter who studies the game a lot, maybe doesn't have necessarily all of the behind-the-scenes insights, but is able to speak without any filter.
Mm-hmm.
Good and bad for different times, I'm sure. But can just be an authority that fans will connect with because they're just speaking their mind.
Exactly.
And without any of those obstacles, without any of those gatekeepers.
Yep.
It's a great place to be in.
Yeah.
100%. And we can see that clear as day with, I suppose, the PR, the filtering, with what's happening nowadays, especially in light of it's been a bad year in general for umpiring, but I think this week in particular, it's really come to the fore the state of the game and the fan engagement when it comes to understanding how the game is being played. There's been obviously some news earlier in the piece where you're going to have a different adjustment, you're going to have different interpretation to how hot the ball is going to be conducted. Last year, they've added a fourth umpire into the piece, so there's changes there. And of course, there's always going to be some teething problems, but I think most of the problems have really, I suppose, come to a head this year. Laura Kane has come out and is going to be doing was supposedly going to do regular interviews on AFL channel, coming out and explaining some of these controversial decisions like the non-50-metre penalty you guys, which you benefited from. But that's no longer happening. You stepped away from that.
Go on, Essendon supporters, say it, please. Get it out of your system.
Have it.
You're wrong.
What have I said wrong so far? I haven't said anything wrong so far. It's definitely been a massive talking point. Did it affect the game? Did it determine the game? I'm not here to talk about that specifically, but it's just in relation to the messaging, because Andrew Dillon has come out and he said that the AFL umpiring has essentially never been better. That's clearly a PR spin. Clearly, it's highly sanitized, and there's a big agenda behind it. And you can understand why he has to say it. But when it comes to the truth, the fans know that that's not quite the case.
There's going to be I would imagine, pretty hefty investment in umpiring in the off-season in terms of training, in terms of support, in terms of whatever kind of systems they need back end to ensure that the umpiring.
Are they full-time yet, Paul?
I would say most. I would say at the AFL level, yes. I believe AFLW, there's still some part-timers and those sort of things, and I'm sure that's kind of on the cards for them to change as well. But I think as a starting point, I think they've got to upskill. I think we've kind of we're in this interesting void at the moment where a lot of the names, and some people love or hate him, but there's a lot of profiled umpires who absolutely, I've just blanked on the name.
Razor Ray,
thank you. Like some people, people love to hate him in a lot of ways, but you knew 100% what you were going to get. There was consistency there, and right now, and obviously there's a lot of other senior umpires who've also retired in recent years, and so we're in this interesting void at the moment where there's just a lot of experience that's missing. And look, it's natural in any sort of industry. You're going to have moments where the old names, the reliable faces go, and new people have to step up. We see it in our playing lists all the time. I'm finally experiencing it as a Cat fan right now where, hang on, I can't just rely on Selwood and Hawkins to save the day. But at the same time, they need to invest more now to bring this, because this is the consistency thing is the thing that's lacking.
For sure.
If I want to, I'll lean into our game slightly for a moment. But one of the most contentious decisions of the weekend was the Jai Menzies rush behind, right?
Yep.
And look, I was kind of the mind that, okay, I don't know if the rule's right, but I actually agree with the way it was adjudicated then. But then the very next day, it was the way it was according to the rule book. Like, there's no consistency. So any wonder Essendon supporters are beside themselves the next day because they see a decision that is adjudicated different. Moments adjudicated differently.
And St Kilda fans as well.
Yeah.
Because St Kilda fans see the night before and they're thinking, great, Jai Menzies got penalised. Dan Houston should get penalised now for the same thing. And so they're expecting a free kick that isn't coming. And so you end up having maybe two supporter bases. The Essendon supporter base saying, hey, where was this last night? And then the St Kilda supporter saying, hey, where is that tonight? Everyone's trying to find.
And us Cat fans going, yeah.
And the Cats fans are saying, thank you, Robert the Green, but
umpires' favourites, all that sort of stuff.
Second last. He was second last in terms of free kicks, I suppose, paid for the season. But, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Dave, where we had the Red, Black and White chat on here, and we sort of spoke about umpires then as well. And it's not quite the free kick count that is the biggest, I suppose, measure of how well a game is officiated. It's very much so the missed calls and the changes in the momentum that you just can't put a number on. And I know King on SEN said something similar as well when he was talking with Jared in relation to you can't put a number on what scoreboard pressure does and the momentum and things like that. But I mean, again, the inconsistency, not even just between games, but within games itself, it's so confusing. And I can only imagine if we as fans are confused, how are the players feeling out there on the field? Like, can I do this or not? Am I allowed to rush this ball over the line? Because I was, Jai Menzies, I'm pretty sure Brad Scott would have told him at quarter time, next time you rush that ball, you don't give it straight to Geelong. He goes and rushes it over and then he gets penalised for it. So you can just imagine, I suppose, the player's almost between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah. So it's Brad Scott's fault then, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's all Brad Scott's fault. But he was in AFL headquarters.
Yeah, no,
and he doesn't know the rules.
I do agree with you, Sam. Yeah, the consistency within games is lacking.
It's also, I suppose, the interpretation of how holding the ball is supposed to go, because they started really hot with it now. They're like saying, we're going to be really hot. We're going to blow the whistle earlier because that's it. You have less prior. You've got less of a chance to get rid of the ball, and we're going to blow the whistle quicker, which means that players are not going to get slung in the tackle very much. It's safer for everybody. It gets the ball moving quickly. And the AFL just isn't. It's sort of, the umpires almost seem to be picking and choosing when they apply that interpretation. And, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean I'm not complaining about it as an Essendon supporter. It happens to every game.
But I am.
But I am at the same time.
It happens to almost every team.
Yeah.
Almost every team. I can almost guarantee you every single fan out there has watched their game and it's called ball and it's not ball.
Yep. Yeah.
And then I watched your video, Paul, in relation to the holding the ball calls that you think should have been paid.
I mean, look, I was shit staring a little bit, but yeah, okay.
But in those cases, I feel like you definitely had, you were objective in those. And like these ones, I would pay as holding the ball. The AFL comes out and says that those ones are not holding the ball.
They didn't even totally agree with me. Yeah.
Yeah. So like even the ones where you think we were speaking objectively, we're not trying to be biased in any way. It's just. There's just no consistency. You don't know. And if you don't know what the rules are and how they're going to be interpreted, how do we have a professional game on a national level?
Yeah. I mean, we know there's always going to be errors, right? Because it's a 360-degree game and it's moving really fast. And I think Jimmy Bartell said it the other day, not to throw a little bit of love to another Geelong player, but he was saying the other day where there's so many throws that are being missed at the moment. And and I do get that to a degree because it is moving so incredibly fast. Yeah. But that's emblematic of a larger issue here. And maybe a fourth umpire is not. I don't think we need a fifth, but like maybe we need to empower the boundary umpires, the goal umpires, to make some more calls that the on-field umpires are, finding themselves blindsided to. Don't need another body out there because there's already enough bodies out on the field as is. But maybe we take out some of the mess.
Because they also have the extra umpire in the year, don't they? Now they're not umpiring. They're trying to give affirmations. I wonder how many affirmations they gave on the weekend in relation to some of the games that
they were a Geelong supporter this week.
They're all Geelong supporters. Yeah, it was all one big conspiracy theory. And the Bombers were absolutely screwed in the space of 7 minutes, where it was a 3-point game and then became a 45-point game.
Yeah, that's why you.
Now I was disappointed with my boys after 3/4 time. I was disappointed with them. I can completely understand how the third quarter ended up playing the way it did. So I did think that they were definitely hard done by during the third quarter and the emotions and the crowd. And, negativity can build and breed more negativity. So I can understand why in the third quarter things started to fall apart. But I was just hoping that after 3/4 time, the boys would look at each other and say, let's do this for Heps. 250th game. Only the 15th Essendon player to do that. Stuff it. The world's against us. At least we can back each other in and try and... But it just didn't happen.
But I think that just shows, and not to get all Geelong v Essendon about it, but I think that just shows where Essendon potentially is in terms of its development. Like they still need that. You're going to have times where games go against you, right? It's not always going to work for you. And in those scenarios, you dig in deeper, you go harder. And I think as Geelong and Pie supporters, we've kind of seen those ups and downs, and things have worked and things haven't at different points. Those players have had those moments of disappointment along the way. But I think what they've learned is they've kind of got that harder edge. And I don't mean to say like Essendon doesn't have the harder edge yet, Essendon edge and all that.
Yeah.
But like
very fitting.
It's like that's going to take time, right? And I think it's just part of the natural development of the club. Still, some of those players on the list still need to go through.
Yeah.
We're definitely
not the finished product. And I think Brad Scott himself knows we're not the finished product. Why he's tinkering around with people's
Harrison Jones playing the back line against Geelong.
On the wing.
And he had a bunch of intercept marks as well, so he was playing a defensive role quite well as a winger.
Absolutely. I was actually, at first, when I first saw it last week, I was pretty surprised about that. I thought, really? We're taking Harry Jones out from the forward line? But I actually really like the call because he's got great marking ability. He's got a great work rate. His set shot finishing hasn't been the best. Peter Wright tends to be a bit better than that.
I remember the one was it 2023 or 2022? Oh, yeah. Was it 2023 Anzac Day or 2022 where Harrison Jones had that shot from outside 50 and then Darcy Moore sends it from a kick in?
It was not outside 50.
Jamie Elliott finishes it.
It was 25 metres out.
It was barely 25 metres out directly in front.
Oh my goodness.
Keep talking while I have a little...
Let me empty this glass.
Sorry about the trauma dump there, my man.
Yeah. Mate, I thought it was going to happen again. Anzac Day?
Yeah.
You had Jamie Elliott sliding in. I thought he was going to take that mark, and I thought, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Deja vu.
Yeah. The drop chest mark. I remember that.
The drop chest mark on the yes.
Exactly. The draw was probably a fair result in the end, right?
The draw was a fair result. Of course, Langford as well, because Langford missed the shot just before that, and I thought, no, yeah. I'm not going to go that far. We're not going to go that far. We already did. But
I'd actually like to get your take on that.
Please.
The Anzac Day medal.
Yes.
Who do you think deserves to win that? Because I thought Langford had an excellent game that day. And I think if he wasn't the one to miss that shot at the end, he could potentially have won the Anzac Day. And it could have been a little bit tainted because he missed that. But yeah, who do you thought? Do you think?
I thought if there was going to be a pie, I thought Nick Dacos was your best. I thought if it was going to be a bomber, I thought it would have been Nick Martin. Really? I thought Nick Martin had a wonderful. He turned it on.
Yeah.
But you guys were coming back really hard, and he had a wonderful think it was a wonderful last quarter where he kicked a couple of goals as well. So, but yeah, we don't want to make it too Essendon focused. Yeah, we've already spoken about Essendon, Geelong, and now Essendon Collingwood.
Bloody winches.
So this is this is great. I never thought I'd be on the receiving end of having a lost a Geelong game, and now look, I reckon
I'm
we're going
ganging
to
up
lose
with
to
some
you
Collingwood
guys.
supporters to pick on Essendon.
And then, yeah, I honestly thought that we're gonna lose to you guys as well this week. Well, we'll talk about that in the tipping. And so haven't had an episode be so Essendon focused. So for that, I must thank you as well.
Yeah.
But you guys can't all be about me. I'm not the only one that lost this week. You also lost this week. Okay, you lost to the Gold Coast Suns.
We did.
Now that you had a wonderful fight back. Unlike us, when things got hard, we capitulated. You guys, in classic Collingwood fashion, come flying back. Nick Dacos splits the seas. I don't know how he stepped through those two.
Unbelievable.
Kicks that goal, and you're thinking, holy crap, they're doing it again. And except it didn't. Gold Coast found another gear. And that's the first time I think I've ever seen that from the Suns.
Unusual, that's for sure. I mean, it helps that their home is a fortress this season, which
Haven't
probably
lost yet, right?
Yeah, undefeated.
Haven't lost. Damien Hardwick obviously has espoused some sort of wisdom upon those players, and it seems to be working at least at home. Because the other page the other tale of the story is they haven't won away from home, so that's I guess a trouble they're going to have to face sooner rather than later if they want to make finals. But yeah, it was disappointing, and I think we're seeing those comebacks fall just a bit short in 2024 for the Pies. But champs, how do you see all this in recent times?
Yeah, I thought the Suns' pressure was just there all day. They were, always front of the contest on our kick in, just around the ground, and they were able to spread really well. And it just looked and felt like their work rate was a little bit better. And, we talked about it in the post stream throughout the week thus far that, Collingwood can't keep relying on comebacks. And maybe we're at the point where, we reached the pinnacle of the comeback at North Melbourne, which was, an amazing comeback. But now it's kind of working against us. And we can't be, getting these slow starts each week because we don't want to look like Anzac Day earlier on this year on Friday night. So,
Well, it's not sustainable, right?
No. But my qualm or my issue with it, or my concern is how quickly can Fly change this mindset, because that's what it is. It's an ingrained mindset that we've been comfortable being down early in the game. I say early, we've been comfortable being down bloody 5 goals at 3/4 time because we know we have that extra gear. But it comes a moment in time where that can't be an acceptable standard. And I think, like I said, we don't have the luxury of knowing what's going on in between the 4 walls at the Collingwood helm, but you can only assume that maybe the Pies have been let off internally a little bit because we've gotten those wins, we've got that flag to our name. Whereas now we're wondering, how can we change this mindset in the space of 6 weeks leading into the finals? It's unforeseen. What we've done is unprecedented. How long can we sustain it? And I think, as Caleb said, we reached the climax against North Melbourne, and we climax in more than one way, champs.
I was about to say, this is very astute use of
We're about to move from YouTube to OnlyFans. So
This is the most... And
we're transitioning over now.
mate, you are the most eloquent Collingwood supporter I know.
Thank you. But yeah, that's where we see it, right?
Yeah, and just to touch on it again was with Collingwood, it's like, we've heard Fly talk in the past of like, it's okay, boys, it's okay to make a mistake, especially early on. Maynard early in the year kicks it to the opposition player off a kick in. They're all having a laugh about it. But we're getting to the pointy end of the season. We're not playing as well as we want to be playing. So something needs to change. I don't know if they need all the boys have some pre-workout before and can't come out firing, because something needs to change, especially going into the final series with, all the cattle of fish. Has pretty much been a revolving door for us side each week. So.
Well, that goes a long way to, I suppose, like once you have some stability in your list in terms of the team that gets named every single week, you just see it gets a lot easier for people to be on the same page. And for you to hit the ground running, I suppose, earlier, as opposed to feeling each other out and making sure that, you're all building towards the same thing. And there is something to be said about peaking at the right time. I don't think it's a big deal if you're halfway through the season and you haven't quite fully hit your straps just yet.
Mate, 7-0 at the beginning of the season. We were flying. We were premise.
Yeah.
But no,
the Giants as well. They were
Yeah.
undefeated for a good, I forgot how many games they won in a row, but they started off really hot. And now they're in the middle of nowhere a little
Melbourne
bit.
a couple of years back, right?
Melbourne
They did the
as
same thing,
well.
won the first 11, and then they fell off a cliff.
Yeah.
Exactly. But there's something to be said. And that's why there was all these question marks over, are the Swans really going to win the flag this year? Because is it possible to just come out as hot as they have been, having only lost one game, which was clearly a blip to Richmond? Still, no one has any idea how the hell that happened.
Neither does Richmond.
Neither does Richmond. Yeah, exactly. They thought, oh my God, we could miss out on number one pick here by winning this game. But there's something a bit to be said about really picking at the right time, getting your players back.
Yeah.
And you've finally got some players back. Like Tagowi's missed a good stint as well. He's come back into the team. But then again, you do have, obviously Murphy's out and he's not coming back. So that's going to be a difference for your team. And a lot's been now put onto Darcy Moore's shoulders. And there's some comments come from Kane Corns this morning. Do you agree with those comments?
Cam, do you want to have a first?
Yeah, I think, look, unfortunately, he is having a good game maybe once every 4. I want to say once every 6 games, or maybe once in every 4th game. He's had a cracking game against you guys when he took the 5 intercept marks.
Everybody
early
has a
this
cracking
year.
game against us. I swear, we suck.
Ollie Dempsey.
But
Yeah, exactly. Case in
Rising
point.
star.
yeah, like just a couple things, especially on the Gold Coast game, the first quarter, he double fist the ball, where maybe in previous years he would have taken that grab. He's currently averaging 2.5 intercept marks, whereas last year was about 3.6. His spoils have gone up to 8.6, which is a career high from him. His previous career high was in 2022 at 7.2, if I believe off the top of my head. But in that year, he was still able to manage 3.1 intercept marks. So he was still having that ability to intercept mark and spoil. And we're just starting to see him leave his man more frequently when he doesn't need to impact the play. We're kind of alluding to the point is it because Nathan Murphy isn't there and he's not confident in the defenders that are around him, in a Charlie Dean, a Frampton, where they're quite young and fresh? Or is it because, 60 plus inside 50s against us on the weekend? Is he feeling that pressure to impact every play? And I've got to lead by example, and he's leading into some poor decision making. You want to think hard?
Yeah, I love that. And I think just to add some context with those intercept marks, 2.5 intercept marks as a key size defender doesn't even see you in the top 20 of the league for a key size defender in that category. Last year, he was top 5 in the league for intercept marks, being that 3.5 mark roundabout point. I guess, like Caleb said, with the fact that maybe there's a lack of belief in your Charlie Deans, your Billy Framptons, who got absolutely tarred up against Gold Coast, but we'll save that for another day. We don't want to hate too much on some of the lads, but I think the barrage of inside 50s we're conceding, 69 inside 50s is just, the damn wall's got to go. It's got to break eventually, right? You could make Tom Stewart look like one of the worst defenders if there's that many inside 50s coming.
He's been rough for 7 or 8 weeks.
But
But
he moved to the midfield.
yeah, good call.
Yeah.
just to break the
We were
break the
so
tag.
confused.
Yeah.
We want to send Guelphy to him. I was like, huh? What are you doing in the midfield? You've ruined our plans.
Took us long enough to wake up to do something different,
Yeah.
right? So I get it. But yeah, sorry, hang on. I won't
No,
steal
you're
from
right.
Collingwood.
It's
Collingwood
actually
for the time being.
it's funny you say that, because we were just talking about, well, where do we see Darcy Moore? Because there's only so many times you can play someone in the same position before you shoot any confidence that is left in the man. Do you play him forward? Do you put him in the midfield like a Tom Stewart? No, I wouldn't go as far as to suggest that. I
Hey,
wouldn't
chuck
go.
him in the ruck.
Yes, there's a conversation where if he plays forward, maybe he could pinch hit in a ruck better than a Nathan Kruger, but that's the nitty gritty of it. But
Protect him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go there. Protect.
you got to protect your Rolls Royces, I guess.
Nah,
and
stuff him.
stuff him. But, if they put Harry Mackay in the ruck, then why can't we put Darcy Moore in?
Exactly.
Just keep in mind, we are playing Essendon on Friday, and I think there's a little bit of bias going in there where this might not turn out and they might swoop in and get the W over
My
us.
argument for
I
him
see
at
what
the
you're doing.
Yes,
Very cheeky.
yes. Caleb was all over me. He's all over
My
me
argument
at
for
the-
Darcy Moore at the moment is actually it's more just a byproduct of what's been going on around the ground. Like when you're a defender, ultimately the game is coming to you, right?
Sure.
So you got to play it based on what's coming to you. You can't be as proactive in that particular role. And so I think right now, I guess even throughout the season up to this point, his numbers are probably down simply because the delivery inside 50 has been a little bit easier for opposition than what it was, say, last year.
Correct.
Where he was able to be a bit more proactive and a bit more aggressive by leading out and marking him. Right now, I feel like there's a bit of a, I just need to get it out of here at all costs sort of mentality. Spoils it down. Maybe it's effective, but maybe it also just bounces straight back to an opponent who then delivers it back inside 50. And you feel like that pressure builds up. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you are Darcy Moore, whether you're Tom Stewart, whether you're someone in their first season, that's going to get you at points because It's a natural response. So I feel like for him, as the troops start to come back, like we're starting to see occur, that pressure starts to lighten a bit. Firstly, you've got leadership and quality that's coming into the list, into the starting 23 as well. But also, you're going to find yourself less under siege week after week after week, and he can start to be a bit more proactive in his response rather than reactive.
Hopefully so.
And
I hope.
Not that I want you, Cats fan,
To come good.
Somehow we can pinch something despite our horrible form in the last 2 months. But at the same time, if I'm being impartial about it, like I feel like that's the thing for him right now that would see him back to his best.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily about him; it's more about what's going on elsewhere.
Yeah, but I feel like, I suppose, building on that as well as maybe a bit of a referral to what we were talking about before when I said that we weren't like mentally strong enough to come back from 3/4 time, as well as talking about the pressure when it comes to the repeat inside 50 so much. I just feel like the best teams, the top teams, the teams that are genuine contenders, are the teams that are able to cope with that pressure, to cope with the stress, to get through it. It might not necessarily be 100% perfect, but you can just hold on enough just so that you can then start to swing momentum the other way. We saw in the second quarter in that game, our game against you, I thought we were well and truly on top, and we had some really great territory and a lot of repeat inside 50s, but we didn't hit the scoreboard with it. We sort of, again, we had a similar issue against Carlton in the third quarter where we were all over them in the third quarter. We dominated territory, repeat inside 50s, but he just couldn't put them away on the scoreboard. And so the teams that are able to hold on for long enough, just dig deep, find that other gear to just persist. Might not be pretty, perfect, but as long as you can keep going at it, then eventually you get your turn.
Yeah. And Joe, I want to add to that. I think what's important about that, an important skill set that a good team needs to be considered a grand finalist sort of caliber team, is to be able to rebound that ball up after enduring repeat inside 50s. Geelong were one of the best defensive half transition teams when they were 7-0. I remember they just completely wiped Carlton off the ground with their transition and outrunning.
It was discipline more than sheer skill or anything like that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think Geelong showed that again against you guys. I think they scored over 50 points from defensive half transition, which is well above the AFL average. And a little fun fact for anybody tuning in at home, if you look at 2021, 2022, 2023, the grand finalists that were a part of those games they all were top 4 sides for being able to transition the ball from end to end. And that is typically after the barrage of inside 50s that they typically concede and set up, able to set up shop while waiting.
This is not champion data. This is Pies data here. Or champion Pies.
So you're telling me we're back, right?
You guys are looking good. 1 game sample size, but it is a good sign.
But it's got to start somewhere.
Yeah,
exactly.
A trend has to start from somewhere.
Exactly.
100%.
Are you saying that part of the reason why then you weren't able to capitalize and really win is because you guys are lacking some of that bounce out of the back line?
Well, the last 2 games we've found that. Like we scored about, I think, 60 odd points from that origin in defensive half. Against Gold Coast, we scored 42. But I guess the fact of the matter is we're also conceding quite a bit. We don't have the defensive profile that the best teams have right now. So that's probably the issue there.
Yeah, and to add on to that point, that Nick Dacos, Jack Chris is also now starring pretty much full time in the midfield.
Yeah, they're mids now.
We've lost them on that halfback, so our ability to rebound the ball has fallen to guys like John Noble and a Markov or an IQ who play more traditional defender roles. So what we've been harping on about for the end of the season is we need to get those rebounding numbers up. The last 2 games have been promising size, but we've been in the bottom 5 for most of the year in that statistic, whereas last year that was our one wood. So we've become a more contested side, winning balls out of the clearance due to Nick Dacos second in the league for clearances.
Forward half retention as well.
Yeah, full half retention. So that's kind of where we shifted, and we needed someone to come in now, and we've been calling for maybe Jack Chris to come in and play off that halfback. Maybe
wouldn't mind Max Holmes.
Too bad. Sign him up.
You wouldn't mind Nick the Lizard Blakey either.
Yeah,
He was
Nick Martin.
Oh, nah. Nick Martin, you don't want Nick.
Riddles.
Nick Martin running off halfback is as lost.
You haven't liked it?
No, I've hated it. I've absolutely hated Nick Martin off
McGrath.
halfback.
How about Andrew McGrath then?
It's unfortunate to think this guy was a number 1 draft pick. Like, it's not quite
he's going there.
It's weird, man. Like this guy, you look at all these other number 1 draft picks that have gone through the league, and we've left with Andy McGrath. It's like it's a little bit unfortunate, but can't control that draft. Wasn't particularly unreal. I mean, what we could have taken Taranto, He's a bit of a butcher himself.
Yeah.
Could have got McCluggage.
Speaking of butchers, is the turnover king back in for you guys on Friday night? A certain player that came from originally GWS that now plays for Essendon. Do you know who I'm talking about, Joe?
Dylan Shield.
Yeah, is he back in the squad? It's word on the street.
I think he should be back in this week. I think I'd love Archie Perkins to get sat down.
I think Darcy Moore would appreciate that. Those kicks going inside 50. I'm sorry.
We've got if you tag in Zach Merritt, we've got no other good kicks. Oh, no, actually, no. Jai Caldwell, forgive me, you're also a great kick inside 50.
Who had a banger of a game against
Jai Caldwell. Yeah. He was probably the only one that didn't drop his head.
He's had a role change, hasn't he?
He's playing a lot more in the midfield without Darcy Parish in the side.
Yeah.
He's been given a lot more midfield responsibility as well, which has been
That's
really
been good for him.
It's been absolutely. That's what he is. He's an inside mid. That's the sort of role that he has to play. But yeah, as I was saying, Nick the Lizard Blakey, you'd love to have him in your team. He's flying. He almost won them the game for the Swans against Fremantle on the weekend. He was the hot hand.
Yep.
Every time he got the ball in that last quarter, the Swans were crap for 3 quarters. And then all of a sudden they decided to turn on the last and they had no right to win that game, but they were so close to. But they've proven that they're human and they've lost the game.
And he got the ball. Blakey got that ball out of the stoppage to Logan McDonald.
Yes.
And I just before I forget, because my memory, like I said before the podcast, my memory sometimes goes afloat. But I just want to note that I think Sydney are showing similar tendencies to what Collingwood was, I guess, displaying last year, where they, for the most part, I think against Geelong, Geelong were flying against Sydney at one point, and then Sydney just turned on.
Well, they had an explosive 15, 20 minutes or there. That's all it was.
Yeah. And that's something Collingwood
The Blues as well against Sydney.
100%.
Started off really hot and then they gave up the lead.
100%. So I wonder if Sydney are looking over to Collingwood where we're at now, where we're sick of it and it's probably not going to be sustainable. I wonder if Sydney are looking in advance. And they're also in a position where last year Collingwood were at where we almost had top 2 sealed, right? And now they have to play that mental battle of how can they, I guess, stay engaged within the competition until they get to the final series where they really need to get going. That's going to be another interesting question where they can answer. I think Collingwood were 2 and 3 in the last 5, which was never before. I guess.
Ideal.
Yeah. I don't think it'd be seen before that a team had become premiers after that.
Yeah.
Just do Sydney go down that same route? I'm not too sure. It's an interesting one.
Sydney also have a disadvantage that you guys don't have in that they play very few games at the MCG.
Yeah.
Like you guys obviously hardly ever leave the MCG.
Got my
Whereas
sleeping bag there.
yeah, basically. You might have. I could have swear if I walk around in the MCG, I might find a little Anthony like logo like this.
We're there. Right, yeah.
Drop a tag on a chair.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually in row Z, seat 368. So just have a sus next time you're at the G.
Okay, yeah.
May 13.
Oh, perfect. Message me. I'll meet you there. I'll meet you there one day. But it's they're hardly playing at the MCG. I don't think they play at all, apart from maybe one game all season from
Taylor
here
Swift's
on out.
been there more.
Sorry?
Taylor Swift has been there more.
Exactly. Taylor Swift has been. She's a rock star, mate. The Swans, who are the Swans? They aren't no rock stars. They're going to come and play us at Marvel Stadium, and look, I'm actually happy we play them at Marvel. We play better at Marvel than we play at the MCG. But the Swans, I think they can afford to play the way that you guys played last year because you've shown that it's possible to do so. But is it also a thing where once it's been done once before, it's lost its novelty, and other teams that have studied up on how to beat Collingwood last year can apply those learnings, maybe not exactly to the Swans, but they can take some elements from that in the way they go about preparing to play against the Swans. And Fremantle took it up to them. I thought Fremantle played a really gutsy game. I think that they play their ground really well at the SCG. Yeah. And Fremantle have now really come out of the clouds. And I think they're going to finish top 4 at the end of the season, the way that they're going. They've got a few games to come at home as well. They copped some criticism from their coach for being stat padders the other week. And I don't think I've ever seen that from a coach calling his own players stat padders. That's normally something that the media would be taking them to task about. But hey, they came out and they responded really well. And Logan McDonald, unfortunately, didn't respond as well.
Hey, I'm glad to see he didn't add to his free agency stocks by missing that because that might help Collingwood.
He's gone to you guys, isn't he?
Yeah, because he would probably definitely use that as a point of difference in his trade talks.
I'm clutch.
Fortunately, we don't have to have that conversation.
No, that was a tough kick.
It just knocked a few $100K off his.
No, that was a tough kick. It was a hard kick. Like, he was kicking from outside 50 after the siren. You can clearly see he wasn't super confident in it. And going for distance, he lost the accuracy. You'd think, surely a point. But he ended up kicking from outside 50 and in the tired, highly frantic game. He's probably exhausted, emotions going wild.
He's also got the words
old.
of the umpire too, because remember he was having the conversation
Correct,
with the umpire there about what he can and can't do, and we noticed that he kind of took a couple steps to the left so he could then arc and finish on the right line afterwards. I think the words of the umpire kind of echoing in his head would have just, it distracts you, right?
Classic umpires stuffing up players again.
Yeah. I mean, look, we see it happen all the time, but they're not necessarily kicking from 55 out or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, I think
I don't want to dredge it up too much. Well, we don't have any Hawthorn supporters here, so sucked in Hawthorn supporters. But I think about that Tom Hawkins goal back in like 2012 or whatever, it was after the siren. It went as he was walking in, so he didn't have time to stop and he just kept going.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said for having that clear mind and just, I'm already committed, I've got to keep going, than to stop, rethink about it. And like, there's just so many horrible thoughts can start to sneak into your head in those moments. And I think that happened to Logan McDonald, right? Where he just didn't have that clear head to go and do what he needed to do. He had, I can do this, I can't do this, or the distance is a bit rough, like too much going on.
Yeah.
And he butchered it.
Absolutely. That was a horrific kick. Now, you did mention the Tomahawk, Hawkins going for a goal, no negative thoughts in his mind. Are there any negative thoughts in his mind right now in relation to his playing future? Because, it was a fairly innocuous injury. He's not the spring chicken anymore. And he's seen a very dynamic Geelong forward line take the Bombers to the cleaners last week. So is he done, do you think?
Look, I thought going into the season he was probably going to be done at the end of this year anyway. I think at this point, I guess regardless of what happens with our finals endeavours, they're talking about 6 to 8 weeks. There's a bit of a romantic side of me that hopes he comes back for the round 24 game against the Eagles and they just feed him that ball. Because he only needs 4 goals.
Well.
Yeah, he only needs 4 goals to finish with 800 plus. So my hope on a purely romantic side is that he gets back for that final game and that's how it plays out. And then I guess if we play finals, great, it's a cherry on top. But look, I think he's done regardless. I don't want to write the bloke off because I actually felt like he had that block of 5 games where he didn't kick a goal and things were looking pretty rough there. He seemed to have found it again in those last couple of weeks. So it was unfortunate he kind of got injured in the way that he did. Probably not a bad thing because he was getting taken to the cleaners by Wiedering at the time. But
Wiedering's a great defender. I mean,
Wiedering's had his measure.
He should be All-Australian, I think.
Yeah. It's probably a good occasion for Hawk to go, no, I can put a line through that one.
Yeah,
he didn't beat me that one. I got injured. But look, I think the time has probably come this year. I think that was probably going to be the case anyway. I think there's only so long you can keep Shannon Neal out at this point. He kicked 3 in the VFL the week before. He came in and while he only kicked 1 goal this weekend, he showed a lot of really good positive signs in weather. Didn't necessarily suit the tall forwards anyway, despite the efforts of Jeremy Cameron and then Peter Wright up the other end as well that seemed to make it look pretty easy on the weekend in terms of just the ability to clunk a ball. But I think he's the future, and I think there's only so long you can keep those sorts of blokes out as well. He's also the game's record holder at the Cats too. Like, you've ticked a lot of boxes. We've played a long, long time. We might be there.
Well, someone who's there and going to stay there for at least another 4 years of Tyson Stengel. Congratulations.
Yeah.
It takes something to hold a player back and not let them run away to free agency.
Yeah, I mean, it was only that earlier that week where all the commentary was, okay, St Kilda's offering this and Essendon's offering that, and it seems like he's likely out the door, and then all of a sudden he signs. The word started bubbling up during the game. Now I kind of put my head in the sand during the game on Saturday night in terms of social media and those sort of things because we had Ben that was running a live show at the same time the game was on, and I was doing our post-show stuff. So I tried to just switch everything off so I could go in pretty clean, just with my thoughts from the game and the game alone. And then it turns out during the game, there's Cal Toomey starting to pop up and Jay Clark starting to pop up, and they're all saying Stengel signed. And then he did nothing in the first half. The reports pop up at halftime, and then he kicks 3 in the second half. I'm like,
he must have signed it at halftime.
Let's just. That's when all the report. Yeah, he clearly just wanted to go. This is a bit shit.
Extra cash. Yeah, exactly.
This is a bit shit. I'll sign up now and see what it does for me. The Jake Stringer effect.
He's on a reverse Stringer.
Yeah,
Stringer plays good for the contract.
He
signed the contract and then came good.
So yeah, look, I mean, it's awesome news for the Cats. I think the DNA of our future forward line is kind of there. Now, obviously, Cameron's 30? There, I should know this. He's about 30. He's getting 3, 4 maybe to go.
Speaking of good YouTube channels, by the way, have you seen
Jeremy
Darts?
Cameron's YouTube content? It's good stuff. But you got that. You've got Brian Myers, you've got Ollie Dempsey, you've got Brad Close, you've got this, and Tyson Stengel obviously on top of it now. You've got the Smalls, right? You've got one of the best forwards in the key forwards in the competition there. And then Shannon Neal coming through. Like the DNA is still good for at least the next 3 or 4 years. So then, like, yeah, it's a nice little package that we've got in that forward line there, even if Hawkins is gone at the end of the season. So I was pretty happy with the signing. It kind of completes that end of the ground, really.
I was
now if we could just sort out a midfield.
I was conversely unhappy. I really wanted Tyson Stengel. We wanted Tyson Stengel before he went to you guys. We wanted Tyson Stengel. Now he's kept on. We wanted Bobby Hill, but he didn't come. He went to. It's like you can't get our hands on a genuine.
I'm pretty sure Billy
all-star.
Frampton can play a really good small forward role if you want him.
Well, playing as a defensive, defensive forward, keeping Harris Andrews goalless.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Mate, everyone has to play a role for the team. We've got 2 bit of Peter. I think playing small forward. Well, he just can't take a mark. I feel he's always trying to on the ground, trying to scuttling around, trying to pick up the ball to get the handball out because he can't.
He
take
couldn't
a
drop
mark.
one at a certain point, Peter. Right?
Early in the piece, and now it's just gone to jello. I don't know.
Confidence.
Look, he was pretty solid in that first half against us, and I honestly think it was more of a structural change that we made that kind of dulled his influence a little bit because he had the height on Jack Henry. There was no concerns in that first half. He was beating him in almost every contest. And then it ended up becoming a case of like, we didn't have the height. Sam DeConing, they'd committed to him playing in the ruck.
Yep.
And so it became more of a, okay, so how do we dull his height? And so I noticed more and more you'd have Jack Henry backing into the contest to kind of, make a contest that way, but also there'd be someone coming from behind. None of them had the height, but you basically just sandwich him in and lock in his movements, limit him significantly, and that kind of dulled the impact. But otherwise, up to that point, he was clunking everything. I was getting genuinely worried about what Peter Wright could do that game.
Jeez, who would have thought 2 minute Peter instilling some fear into someone? He hasn't been getting a lot of raps from Essendon supporters. That I can tell you. Something that hasn't been getting a lot of raps as well in the general footy landscape is, I suppose, again from AFL House, the potential changes they're trying to implement with the father-son rule. Things are changing immediately. We're not working towards something. We're there, and Carlton fans out there. Suck shit.
You're going to be nervy.
You're going to be a little bit nervy here, but yeah, there's a lot of Carlton tears out there because there are going to be some changes. And you've had an expert come onto your channel during the week as well to talk about some of the changes.
Yeah, we had a lovely man called Dylan, goes by the name of Dylan Alexander, follows Draft on YouTube. So if you want to have a look, he's there. But we just have a vested interest in a certain father-son prospect in the 2025 draft in Thomas McGuan, son of Mick McGuan, the 1990 Premiership legend. And I think we just wanted to know what exactly is going to transpire because there's talks that things are happening quickly, which is converse to or just not, I guess, in typical fashion with the AFL House, the way that in the speed they're moving.
Usually things are a bit of a slow burn, right? But
Exactly.
This is happening pretty instantaneously.
Yeah, so they're essentially going to get. It sounds like they're going to get rid of that 20% discount that you're typically, I guess, eligible to, if you want to call it that, and then also you're not going to be able to necessarily stockpile. So stockpile those lower drafts in lieu or for that I guess that top echelon, Thomas.
A Camporeale, for example,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
Or two.
So it's pretty much screwed Carlton, who've stockpiled picks ready for the draft. And if they're going to implement these changes, then they're, going to be screwed. Not sure if they're going to be able to get both as they planned.
And look, 3/4 of this panel, totally sympathetic.
I love it.
Totally sympathetic to the flights of Carlton, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
But checking that bias aside, I think the implementation's not great.
No, of course not.
The fact that they're kind of snapping their fingers and making this a thing just doesn't feel fair because we know these days with the ability to stockpile, to be able to trade for futures and those sort of things, to then bring in a rule that happens instantaneously and doesn't at all factor in decisions that have already been made is really poor for Carlton and anyone else who had.
Correct.
I don't know, are there any other names that have kind of bubbled up?
Levi
for potential?
Ashcroft?
Oh, yeah, of course. There's another Ashcroft this year.
There's another Ashcroft.
So not great for Brisbane either. I know Cam Mooney's got his son that's not far away. I don't know if it's this year, maybe next year. But there's players that are all starting to kind of bubble through and clubs have invested in certain ways over the course of multiple years to get in the position to pick up the player they want, no matter how they perform through their final year. And some of that gets blown apart, especially in the case of Carlton, where they've got two that they're trying to chase, who are pretty highly fancied.
And I think with the regards to that move that Carlton are trying to make, they're probably going to go into something called a trade deficit or a draft deficit for the next year. So they're going to have to give up draft points and fall down the tally in the next season because of what's obviously transpiring right now. What that looks like, I don't know the nitty gritty of. That's why we speak to people who are, I guess, privy to the draft. But that's, I guess, the gist of it, really.
Given where they are, though, you'd imagine that Carlton, whilst it's not ideal, but given where they are as a list and how they're contending, that they'd be willing to take bite the bullet in relation to that deficit for them.
I mean, potentially, but they also might have had someone in the 2025 group that they're looking at as well. And you go, now how do we do that? So do they have to give up more this year to, again, stockpile picks or whatever it has to be to make sure they're equipped for 2025? There's still a fairly significant implication that can happen here. I mean, I am supposing, I haven't studied Carlton's list or the birthdays of their prospective father-sons to work out whether 2025 is the year for them.
Come on, man. I thought you worked at the registry.
I really should know their list better, but at the same time, for any club, really, they could have these plans and you go, oh, hang on, now we've got to give a bit more this year because the rules have changed and we had no time, no ability to alter our plans in the slightest.
Yeah, and you would have probably would have heard the murmurings as well as, maybe whatever messages were coming out of AFL House that, hey, we're looking into making these changes, and you'd be thinking, all right, sure, those changes can come. Obviously, it won't be this year. Surely it won't be this year. Good thing, we'll sneak in.
We'll get 12 months. And
yeah, exactly. We'll sneak in. We'll get our two boys, and off we go. Next minute, sorry, they're gonna. You're
gonna have to work for it.
You're gonna have to work for it now, like that. Like you haven't done enough work previously to stockpile those picks.
And I think, if I remember, champs, Dylan said, was it Fremantle was the last team that went into trade deficit?
Yes.
And
they got close here a couple of years ago, right?
And teams don't like to do that because, let's say, they're only 2 points away. I think Fremantle was very close to that, but they actually slid 10 plus spots in the next year's draft. So let's say if they were going to go have pick 5, next year they slide down to pick 15. So the slides
because of the academies and stuff they have.
Yeah, so they don't like to go into a trade deficit.
Right.
Like you alluded to before, if you have someone in that 2025 draft, you might be giving that up. There's something to note for Carlton. Maybe they only get one brother, so.
Oh, could you imagine that? And one goes to Collingwood. We'll take it.
Only one brother. That would be unreal. Which one do you love more?
If you're the club that picks up that other brother, in a hypothetical scenario, you're going, geez, we're not sure how long we're going to hold on to this one. There's a genuine worry as well. So there's clubs that potentially, especially let's suppose you went interstate or something like that, where it's genuine homesickness and not like an Ollie Henry just going, I'm homesick. And
I don't want to think about Ollie Henry.
Don't even.
Still wrong. Like those sort of scenarios, you go, okay, I've picked up this guy. He's like the best available and that's our policy here, but he's going to go in a year or 2 years or 3 years of whatever it is now. Like
he's going to do a Horn Francis, mate.
Yeah. I don't like an ice bath and I'm going to travel.
Exactly.
It's a tricky sort of circumstance. I just genuinely believe that it should have been at least 12 months, and maybe there's still some changes that clubs need to make, but at least you've got a trade and a draft period to make some changes. Right now, Carlton, Brisbane, they're powerless, right? It just is what it is. Or you got to throw out a bunch of people during the off season now just to get something back to do the job. It feels like they've got no room to move.
It's not. Is it really set in stone at the moment? Like there's nothing that Carlton or Brisbane can go and approach Laura Kane or Andrew Dillon and
rumblings I've heard suggest that AFL House is not playing ball in the slightest.
Not in the slightest.
No.
Word on the street.
Heard it here first.
Yeah.
Heard it here first.
You didn't hear it from me.
And I don't know anyone.
Yeah, hoops.
Another guy.
Hoops is scoops, mate. No, all you have to do is just finish high on the ladder. That's all.
Yeah.
Just finish high on the ladder. Pick who you want. Trade away your draft picks so that you can get a lot more
points. Or maybe
points.
Carlton just needs to give up on a premiership this year and tank, right? So they can get as many.
They were good at that for a long period of time.
I don't think that was tanking.
It wasn't tanking.
Just inability.
It's inability.
Joe and Paul, and I know it's a bit rich coming from Victorian-based clubs, but I have a question out without notice for you guys. And
Mate,
I think,
all of this is without notice.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
So I'm gonna
We run into a script.
I want to propose a question. I want to know your thoughts on the whole academy dilemma that we're seeing as well, with Gold Coast picking up 4 prospects in the top 20 last year, and then there was Sydney with the Errol Gouldens. I know where I stand, but I just want to get, I guess, your thoughts about where you guys stand, because I imagine there's so many conflicting opinions because of the philosophical implications that it might have, or you want to call it that, political or whatever you want. But yeah, what are your thoughts on those
I think it's definitely political. They're trying to break into traditionally strong NRL states, and they just if they can develop some really good young talent to come through the academies there and incentivize them that, hey, you're gonna train here. You're from New South Wales. Guess what? Train well. Join this academy. You're more than likely going to end up playing here in New South Wales. We're not going to ship you off anywhere. Just trying to increase the allure of introducing more young talent to come and join and play footy as opposed to playing rugby. So I can completely understand the rationale around, I suppose making it incentivizing, trying to draw out some youth to join the game. But I just feel like because we're now a national competition, whichever club you go to, you're going to be playing for an AFL club that's a professional setup that's going to give you every chance to try and succeed. You're being drafted for a reason. You're going to be on good salary regardless of where you go. Heck, if you leave New South Wales, you could go to somewhere that's a lot cheaper to live, and you don't have to worry about. And exactly, yeah, potentially, you could.
You mean they don't have a cost of living allowance over there anymore?
Reckon the Swans, man, they've got so many.
No, we're only earning hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but we can't afford the little apartment that we're in.
Yeah,
Come
can't
on,
afford
give
it.
us a spell.
I honestly reckon that, the Gold Coast Suns are going to be powerhouses. Like,
yeah,
we're not complaining about it now because they haven't won anything just yet. But mark my words, in a couple of years' time, we're going to be pulling out our hair.
That deck is stacked.
They are stacked, and more is coming. Like, we are not going to see the end of Gold Coast. It's going to be so bad. We're going to wish it never happened. And that's classic AFL. No foresight. You can foresee issues on the horizon, but because nothing bad has happened yet, the AFL is happy to have its head in the sand. And then only once an issue occurs do they then try to fix it afterwards. It's always retrospective. And that's the problem with the AFL. I think we should change that rule. If you're going to change father-son, you change the academies as well.
I'm okay with it as a general sort of model, but I think they got a bit too heavy-handed with it. So I like it in the sense that it balances out the fact that whether it's a Geelong, a Collingwood, or a Carlton has there been any big Essendon father-sons in recent years? Tom Hurd. That worked well, right?
Very well.
But sorry, I'm just sinking the boots in. It's
brutal.
We've got these luxuries of the history of the club and the families and the ability to bring in father-sons, father-daughters, whatever happens to be, that a Gold Coast, any one of these new clubs doesn't necessarily have. And so I agree with it up to a point. But then after that, I think, like, how many did Gold Coast get last year?
Four. Inside the top 20.
Like, that's too much.
That's ridiculous.
It's way too much. Like, there needs to be a limit on it. You're not going to have even Carlton this year with, potentially 2 father-sons. You don't really see more than that, right?
Exactly.
So why is the number not 2 max?
Agreed.
So like a safeguard almost, just to ensure that they don't.
You can do it, but to a limit.
Yeah,
I know they've got other mechanisms in place to, depending on where they're selected, suddenly you're no longer eligible. But of course, it's not the right word for it, but they've been grooming these players for a long time, building them up, getting them ready to go.
Developing.
Thank you. It was not coming to me, but they've been building these players up for.
It gets worse.
They've been building these players up for quite some time. And so they're ready to go. And we see it with some of these players that have trotted out for Gold Coast or Sydney or whatever in the last few years. They come out and they explode straight away because they understand the systems. They're kind of ingratiated as a part of that club.
Yeah.
Since well before they're actually drafted.
Correct.
And so they're ready to hit the ground running, and that's not a luxury that a lot of other clubs have. So let's balance it out just a little bit. I don't mind the model, but it's too much.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think just playing devil's advocate here is when you're going to think about it, like trying to promote a game like you alluded to, trying to get away from those rugby league type of states. And to do so, they need that a strong competitive side. Gold Coast early days until very recently and GWS, they're just getting pumped and they get no one to the ground. So you need someone like, all these players coming through to be competitive and grow the game there. I do back your thoughts on, maybe putting the cap there, but, we are sitting here in the luxury of all supporting Melbourne teams, and there's a lot of benefits of being a Melbourne team. Collingwood, we hardly move from the G. You know, I heard De Gaulle has got a bed under the ground. You know what I mean? Like we hardly leave. So there is a lot of benefits, and I'm sure a lot of interstate flack from this conversation of like, of course, some people from Melbourne are complaining about this. But I think, you know, as the game progresses and they get stronger, then come in and, you know, at least reduce the amount of picks they can get and maybe potentially scrap it once these clubs are nice and established. But it wasn't healthy seeing Gold Coast and GWS get smacked in the early days every week, right? It was pretty much 4 points, chalk it up, much like North right now.
Well,
Developing club North Melbourne.
Developing North, developing club. Sorry, Jez.
And I'll add to that just quickly. I think one of the other things is, I think your concern was the pool, what you were sort of implying was, or insinuating was, the pool will grow for these Gold Coast and these Sydney clubs as they continue to develop their academy.
Yep.
So herein lies the issue in the future is they're going to have an abundance of players to choose from. Whereas up until now, yes, Gold Coast, I guess, hit the jackpot with getting 2 or 4 players within the top 20 last season. I guess to mitigate that is to ensure that there are caps. And that sort of mitigates that situation.
Because you end up getting more and more people going through the system over there. And then you get even more freedom in selecting the creme de la creme.
Yes.
And no one anywhere else can touch them because they're within the top 40. Any of our players within the top 40 before they get drafted, hey, we can't match a bid on those.
Yeah.
But for them, mate, you can take number 1. You can take number 2.
And to be fair, like I floated 2, but maybe 2 is not even the right number as well, because if you imagine a club, any club, who cares, Victorian or not, you can get their pick of their best 2 players in their eyes every single year. 2 of them.
Yep.
Like you've got a starting 18 and not that long.
Exactly.
That's an unreal sort of luxury. It may even be a case of you can have a maximum 2, but an average of 1 every year or something like that.
Yeah. Because you look at also
to balance it out.
Because there are only some interstate teams that have this privilege, the northern ones.
True.
Like not even
Adelaide,
every
Port
interstate. The South Australian teams, they don't have that benefit. The WA teams, they don't have that benefit. It's only up in the northern teams that have that benefit. So
they don't have those same issues as the Gold Coast.
Because they have been, unfortunately,
they're footy states.
They have been prejudiced against because they are footy states. And that's entirely out of their hands. It shouldn't be Adelaide's problem that South Australia just happens to be a very strong football state.
Is it the AFL trying to look after their pocket and grow it in the future? Is that what it is?
It's all about growth. It goes back to that politics thing from the beginning, right?
Exactly.
Business at the end of the day. I mean, we can make the most rationale justifications, but at the end of the day, if it doesn't make money in the AFL's pocket, then these conversations are made redundant.
100%.
Unfortunately.
Exactly. Because even though common sense might prevail, but unfortunately, common sense will not prevail.
Isn't that common?
It's not that common. Where the hip pocket appeal is in full swing, the most important thing to the AFL is its revenue and its bottom line.
Yeah.
Because in the AFL's mind, it's a business. And as long as there's money, as long as there's good cash flow, there's always, looking to negotiate these collective bargaining agreements, players' wages are going up. You want to have new sponsorships and you want to have new broadcasting.
Crypto.com.
It's all money. Crypto.com. Score review. Clear as day, it's a goal.
Yep.
It's a shame.
But let's
splash their logo.
Yeah. We've got to have...
No longer a conspiracy, if you ask me. That crypto stuff is crazy.
We touched on that on the podcast. I wish I had the numbers in front of me because I did a full analysis. Because we did signage at the ground for the company that I work for, and pretty much the way they sell you is like, there's X amount of viewership per year coming to the ground. You're going to be able to be seen, and that's how they pitch it to you. So you're going to be able to go if the score review goes up from, let's just say, 4 score reviews a game up to 8, then you're showing that growth and you're going to be seen with so many eyes on the game. Of course, it makes sense. When that sponsorship deal runs off, they'll probably go on KFC like the NRL and say, "Hey, let's get a zinger up on the scoreboard right before we announce the goal, advertisement wise, and it makes money as well." So.
I mean, so this is why the umpiring is the best it's ever been, right? Because we're referring more, and so we're getting more crypto.com money, right?
100%.
That's it. We've worked it out.
You've worked it out. It also then leads to more clicks on social media, more articles come out, more people trying to interact with the AFL. Yeah, exactly. It all feeds the beast. The AFL does not care about you. The AFL does not care about us. The AFL only cares about its bottom line. Yeah. And we, unfortunately, have no recourse other than to keep feeding the beast because we love our football so much and we have to support our team. Yeah. So where possible, if you can buy merchandise, don't buy it through the AFL store. Buy it specifically through your club. If you get anything that you want to purchase, try and go through your club as much as possible. Don't buy a club membership through the AFL. Buy it directly through your club. Any sort of financial contributions that you want to make, if you really want it to go to your team and not to the AFL, try and go down those specific channels as much as you can, because the AFL, the football is the best sport in the world in spite of itself. In spite of itself.
Yeah.
Not because of its running, in spite of itself. And the fixture also is a big part of it, because it makes no sense why teams play other teams twice before they play every other team once. And then you end up with a ladder that is so skewed in such a way that it doesn't accurately reflect where certain teams are supposed to be. Like, we are not the fourth best team in the competition by any stretch. And
Glad you said it.
And that's why everyone calls us pretenders.
How many times do you get to play North and West Coast this year? And
Well, we've
Richmond?
already played West Coast twice. And I don't think
Hey, we
play
slipped down
North
the ladder. We
again.
get to play them twice.
Oh, God.
You know, like we've
nice, hey,
only played North, yeah. But we play you guys twice. 2 draws, maybe?
Maybe.
But see, go back to dollars and cents though. That's a marketing beat.
Yeah.
100%.
You could be on opposite ends of the ladder, and that's going to happen twice, no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's again, revenue before equity. In the face of money, all fairness goes out the window. It's just who can provide the most. But again, like, we're not the fourth best team in it, but we're in there. Fourth on, 13th team.
Ooh.
But they are the first team in AFL history where the 13th position team has a positive win-loss record.
Crazy.
It is such a tight season. Again, in spite of the AFL and the umpiring causing us to lose games, now making it very tight and wonderful for everybody else.
We'll do what we can to fix up their win-loss record this weekend.
Very
right?
good. Well done. Thank you.
Not
Who does play
promising
this week?
anything. I'm not getting carried away. No one's going to clip this out.
So we need Hawthorn to soften up Geelong because we face you guys.
Yeah, we've got to do the week after.
There you
I think.
go.
All right. We'll go to a break. On the flip side, we'll go through the tips, because it looks like we're leading up to that now. There you guys. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We start off Friday night football. 2 not so popular teams. Collingwood hosting the Bombers. Friday night football. Mate, what's going on?
Champs?
Yep. Look, it's going to be an interesting game.
6th versus 4th. We're above you on the ladder.
For now.
For
Get
now.
around.
For now.
That's-
For now.
Hey.
Essendon
The
and
slide has begun for the Bombers.
Yeah. No, look, it's going to be an interesting game on Friday. I think, Fly probably might put a rocket up their butt, in particular from the Gold Coast performance, and the boys want to bounce back. It will be definitely an interesting one. I reckon we get the job done. You always have to back your team in, don't you, James?
Have to.
Can't trust people who tip against their team.
No.
I did maybe,
Bad
allude
juju.
to maybe we shouldn't be sitting here because this might get a little bit heated. But I think, once we win the clearances and get going again and not let you off into a 4 goals in 5-minute start, then, we're going to be able to get on top and get momentum on Friday.
Hopefully.
I don't think you let us do that. I think we did that.
I think we were just,
Sheer force. Yeah.
Through
Yeah,
sheer
that's what it was.
force of will. What do you think, Paulie?
Pies by 30.
Wow. That's generous.
Where's it won and lost, you reckon?
Honestly, that was mostly a gut feel, but I think there's that class that's starting to come back for the Pies, and they're starting to kind of build that match fitness again. And I think the cream just rises to the top. It's not that there's necessarily one specific area that I think they'll blow the Bombers out of the water in. It's more just that consistency kind of around the ground and just the experience, I think, that just carries a lot of weight.
I'll give you guys something to look forward to for the game as far as matchups are concerned.
Oh, okay.
Jake Stringer towed Geordie to go in the middle last time.
He smashed him.
That's
Jake,
right.
Jake Stringer had 15 contested possessions and had his shots on goal, and Geordie had his colours lowered in that game. The other matchup I'm looking forward to is Darcy Moore versus Peter Wright, if that happens to transpire. Call it the battle of the form woes, because we Peter Wright is definitely not resembling form of the last couple of years, and Darcy Moore is certainly a far cry from that. So keep an eye on those 2 matchups.
So Noble's out
Yes.
and Bo McCreary out.
Sure
Yep.
is.
Is Josh Dacos going to be out?
no, he's
Well, geez, am I starting
he's
to change
been
my tone
managed.
here?
yeah. So Maynard and Josh Dacos have been managed due to a corky, one in the calf, one in the quad. We'll see. Maynard, Josh, I reckon they get up for Friday. Be pretty pretty hard done by if they don't get up due to a corky. So expect, a full, somewhat healthy squad. It would be interesting to see what our selection is going to the squad, who comes in. We're tipping Harry Dimatteo to come in and play his first game and provide us something that he's been pretty good at VFL level and attacking the game with purpose and hitting those inside 45s into the centre, much like Maynard did in that late third quarter, fourth quarter when Collingwood has to roll the dice. I think you can expect that from early on. And once we start looking inboard, we're going to be able to open up the forward line and score quite well.
That's the dream.
All right. I'm going to go the Bombers by 11. I don't think we're going to beat you by a lot. I don't think we're accurate enough to win by an even 2 goals. You guys are obviously a very good team, but I just feel like you're missing speed out of the back line. If you're going to be without, Noble, I don't know who your distributor off half back is going to be. And I think for us, we've struggled with a lot of pace out of the back line.
Because that's how Geelong got you, right? Speed out of our back line. Yep. We don't have any of that.
I know you don't have any of that. You were helped with speed from the umpiring decisions, I think, in that third quarter. And then we dropped our heads in the last, that's for sure. But no, I just think that if we can guard the transition and the transition isn't very quick, then I think we can our midfield can set up the wall fast enough. We can get a defensive wall and get some repeat stoppages, some repeat entries inside 50. And again, the battle, as you say, of the 2 out of form players, Moore and Peter Wright. If it's a dry day, I'm going to back us to win by 11 points. If it's not a dry game, then can the draw. Saturday afternoon, North Melbourne are hosting the Suns at Marvel Stadium. Closed roof. Suns can't get into the closed roof. It's in Victoria.
Sharp.
It's in Victoria. The Suns don't win away from home. Having said that, the Suns are going to win this week. Sorry, Jez. North Melbourne are going to lose this game. I think the Suns showed too much promise and resilience in their win last week against you guys. They have to build on that belief.
Have to.
And carry that momentum. I think the Suns get the job.
I mean, they should, right?
But do they?
I think they will, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they cough it up simply because, young teams, inexperienced teams, they have these highs from a miraculous, maybe unexpected win or whatever the case is, and then they blow it the next week. And we've seen it time and time again, not necessarily with Gold Coast, but just, those young developing teams, the natural ups and downs. I don't know if Gold Coast quite fits that bill. I know their winning record away from home is non-existent. They don't have one yet this season. But at the same time, I just think that, they should get it done this time, I think. But I don't say it with the greatest degree of confidence.
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very telling for the Suns' finals push. If they don't win this weekend, who are you going to beat away from home? So it's really do or die for them. They showed a lot of belief to come back from Collingwood, who were coming hard in that last fourth quarter. So I think the Suns get up. I'm going 37 points.
Ooh. I've liked North's last few weeks. You can talk about North Melbourne versus Collingwood. You can talk about the Bulldogs versus North, where that fixture hasn't been a very desirable fixture for North Melbourne in the past. I'm going to go North Melbourne by 5 points.
Hey.
Is that because a certain someone in your life that could be pushing you that way?
I don't know what you're talking about, brother.
A female who plays for North Melbourne.
Well,
it could be.
There's a female in the household that is a North Melbourne supporter, but there's also a toy poodle in the house that wears a North Melbourne tie across her collar. So the household is split. We have a Bichon Frise and a toy poodle. One of them is a North fan with a North Melbourne tie, literally a tie. And Rosie, the Bichon Frise, is on my side with the Collingwood tie on her collar.
You love to see it.
Yeah.
All right. Again, the same time slot at 1:45 p.m. Except this time out in Adelaide, it's the Port Adelaide Power hosting the Western Bulldogs. This one's almost bordering coin flip territory. The Dogs got the job done last week, but it was against North Melbourne at Marvel. Port Adelaide last week managed to sneak over the line against the Saints at Marvel and win by 2 points. The Saints not powerhouses, sorry, Dave. But still, a win away from home. They're now going back home. I'm gonna lean with Port Adelaide. They've let me down quite a few times when I've tipped them. but I keep coming back to Ken Hinkley under pressure and his team getting up for him. So I'm going to say Ken and Port Adelaide win this game, I reckon.
I think you hit the nail on the head at the beginning when you said coin flip. It feels like a coin flip, and the only thing that steers in the direction of Port for me is the fact that it's a home game for them. That's about it. That's nothing more I can really attribute to it than that, really.
Doggies.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm saying
The Dogs travel pretty well.
when the Doggies midfields are on, they're on. They're probably best side in the AFL. I'll go Doggies as well in just due to their midfield ability. And look, I reckon they're the dark horses to
We'll know
potentially
within the
win a
first 10
flag
minutes,
this
I
year.
think.
Yeah, we'll know exactly. We'll know early on in the piece. 4:35 p.m. The Cats are hosting the Hawks at GMHBA Stadium. What do you reckon?
Cats by 35 points. Look, I don't want to sell the Hawks short. Well, I very much want to
You
sell the
do
Hawks
very
short.
much, yeah.
But I won't dismiss what they've achieved in the last couple of months. It's been great, and we've been very poor in that time. But I think there's a golf in class still between the two teams, despite what we've put forward in the last couple of months. And I think we'll get the job done pretty comfortably at home this week.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't see the matchups working favourably for them. I'll be interested to see what happens with the ruck matchup. Even when we played him early in the year, Lloyd Meek had his way with, I think, Toby Conway on that particular occasion. Now we're not even playing a ruck, so I don't know what we'll do in that particular matchup. But other than that, no, I just think there's too much strength for the Cats around the ground.
For mine, I'm all aboard the Hawks bandwagon until they have to come up against us in a couple of weeks. So till then, sorry, Paul.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to go the Hawks by 21 points.
It's
Pretty
like,
comfortable.
yeah, it's
Look,
a
our
hard,
home record hasn't been great.
It's
lately,
at GMHBA?
So, yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
at GMHBA,
Oh.
yeah.
But it hasn't
It hasn't been great for us this year.
Yeah, I'll stick with the Hawks.
That's what I was about to allude to, that it is down in Geelong on the
Pish
weekend.
posh.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to go the same as you because
Good.
it does seem a little bit predictable.
But
But don't
go.
You're going to fly in your own, brother. You're going to fly in your own
but
sometimes.
I do
Don't go
back.
the same,
I'm
it's
all
fine.
aboard the Hawthorn train as well. You know, I like what they're doing. Obviously, one of my ex-favorite Collingwood players is down there in Jack Ginnivan, so I'm going to go with them as well. Be a little bit closer. I'm going 13 points.
Is it Ginnivan or Ginnivan?
Ginnivan.
Ginnivan?
Yeah.
So why'd you call him Ginnivan?
I'm chewing some gum,
Oh.
and it might have got in the
Just
way.
had a moment.
The way the tongue rolls.
Yeah.
I love it. Look, Meek will be a factor, but we play a 2 ruckman, and you managed to do okay. So I think you'll be fine. Giants hosting the Blues at home. So in Sydney, not in Canberra. 7:30 p.m. The night game. The Giants are hosting the Blues. I mean, the Blues are playing quite well at the moment. They're able to turn it on when they have to. I hate it that they can, but it is what it is. I'm going to tip the Blues. I just have more trust in which team's going to rock up on the day. Don't know what I'm going to get from the Giants, to be honest, on any given day. So I'm going to go with the Blues. We'll go with you first, just so that he doesn't say you're copying him.
Yeah, well, I think the obvious answer is the Blues, and I reckon we might get a clean sweep here. Just too strong for GWS.
Yeah, I've got to say, guys, with your predictions, I can't say you're wrong, but I'm also going to go GWS.
Oh.
Toby Green's going to kick 6 on Alex Sincotta, who has become a fan favourite at the Carlton Helm. So looking for Toby Green to bounce back because he hasn't been himself this year.
No, he's only put in one real blinder and happens to be against the Cats and kicked the winning goal.
Sure.
So thanks, mate. But yeah, look, I think the Blues, but I do think it's going to be tighter than what most expect. I feel like it's a 2-goal game at the most. I think there's signs with the Giants that they're starting to kind of find what they want again in terms of form, but you can't argue with the Blues form at the same time. So I'll get around them this week.
Just I don't want to play devil's advocate. Didn't GWS get pummeled by the Crows?
No, I know, but there's been little aspects that I've kind of moments, not many moments in that particular one, but also there wasn't many moments in our game against the Blues the week before. And sorry, mate.
Quick turnaround.
But
Joey's
like
getting
you've
smashed.
seen like some of that linking play has kind of been there on a few occasions. Like you can see things are kind of bubbling, and I'm just hopeful that I'm tipping the Blues, but I'm hopeful as someone who doesn't mind the Giants, or because of the theme song.
I love the Giants
oh
team.
God.
I was actually having this conversation at work today. I
Yeah?
said, amongst my work colleagues, what is the best theme song? And I went Giants.
Yeah,
I don't think it is, but like it's
I don't think it is.
because of their social team being as supremely talented as they are, it just
It's a big sound on the west side of town.
Still got PTSD from 2019.
Mate,
Stop,
it's
stop.
too good. Like, no, it's not good. So what's the best song then? And don't tell me Geelong.
Demons.
no, I wasn't gonna. No, the Tigers.
Demons?
Tigers,
No.
right?
Yeah.
Really? That's left field for mine.
No, I reckon the Tigers is the
song.
second
The Dogs,
one.
Sons of the West, 2016, circa.
Well, it's still,
Tigers
is it still not the same song as opposed in
Fremantle.
2016? Nah, mate, it's the Birds of Tokyo. Far out, that's so bad. No, I actually hate the Brisbane one. I don't like
Slash the Adelaide one, then, right? Basically the same
They're
thing.
basically the same, exactly. Fremantle now are hosting the Tigers 8:10 p.m. on Saturday. Fremantle by 50 plus.
I'll go Dockers as well.
Finally,
We're unanimous.
We're finally unanimous.
I can't go against that one.
Thank you, Richmond. You've brought all of our teams together. Well, maybe thank you, Fremantle, as well. Sunday now. Melbourne are hosting the Eagles at the MCG. Last time these two sides met, it was at Optus, and the Eagles and Harley Reid taught Melbourne an absolute lesson. They won by like 50 plus points, and Harley Reid fended off both Petrarca and Oliver in the same play, left hand, right hand.
Unbelievable.
No
He's a
Petrarca this week. He's a gun.
Yeah.
Well done, North Melbourne. Well done, North Melbourne, for winning that last game. Oh, well, I've said it a million times, but it just never gets less funny. It just doesn't get less funny. You would imagine that midfielder.
They didn't want to get accused of tanking. That's all it was.
Fair enough.
She just had to lose one more game. That's all.
No, because they knew, the Suns that went away from home. So if they
True.
lost to the Suns in Tasmania, they'd know, that's
True.
clear
It's
tanking.
too
there.
obvious.
Too obvious.
You're right there, Joe.
So what's happening here? What's happening at the MCG on Sunday? Is Melbourne beating the Eagles? Or are the Eagles bouncing back from a horrific performance last week?
As much as I'd like to see the Eagles win, they are a completely different team with Harley Reid in the squad. But Melbourne is just going to be too strong for them. So I don't really see it swinging any other way. Unfortunately, in the AFL at the moment, there's a bit of a divide with Eagles, North Melbourne, and Tigers kind of struggling. So it's a little bit too easy to tip against them unless someone else got a hot take here.
I think that the D's also get it done. I was actually you just reminded me though. I had Nick Dacos's goal against Gold Coast for mine. I don't know what the rest of the room thinks. I was like straight away, then and there, that's goal of the year for mine. But then I just remembered what Harley Reid did to Petrarca and Oliver. Was that in the same moment that he kicked that goal?
Oh no, it wasn't the same moment.
But there was still another very good moment
where he ran, had like 3 or 4 bounces in the midfield and sunk it from 15 meters out on the run. Yeah.
I'm tipping the Eagles.
Oh, here we go.
I'm backing specifically the Waterman matchup. I know, obviously, Melbourne have got some supremely talented key defenders in Lever and May, but Waterman, or Wayne Carey 2.0, as some people dubbed him early in the season,
Yep.
he's still white hot, and I think he'll kick 5 or 6, and that might be the difference in the end.
Meanwhile, the Melbourne Demons can't kick any goals to save their lives. They suck with
that
their
helps,
forward
right?
line.
If you only need to kick a few, and if the opposition can't, you're in the box seat.
And West Coast's backline is really strong. Like that's been one area of strength that even in their lower seasons, the last couple of seasons, their backline's still so good. McGovern, Barras, Duggan, Witherden. I don't know if he's still around, but they've got a very strong backline back there. Elliot Yeo playing some incredible football. Melbourne, without Petrarca, that's a massive hole in that midfield. I'm actually going to go with the Eagles.
I think they're vulnerable.
I'm going to go with the Eagles as well. I'm with you, Paulie.
Oh, champs, I'm with you.
Yeah, that's great.
You in?
Yep.
Melbourne, no.
And Barras is going to look great next year in the Collingwood.
Yeah, in the black and
Just gonna
white.
say
Yeah, that's right. I should have known. We're not champs. Don't champ me. Alrighty then. 3:20 p.m.
Sorry,
the
Dave.
Saints hosting the Swans at Marvel Stadium. Unfortunately, the Saints are copping the Swans maybe 1 week too late. If the Saints were playing them last week, there's a chance that they cop the lull in the Swans. But now the Saints are getting the Swans on a bounce back after their loss last week. So I'm going to go with the Swannies here. Been a pretty comfortable affair, I think.
I think I'm going to go with hot take.
Oh, here we go.
St Kilda.
Oh,
All right. Just because maybe just maybe Sydney started to slide, maybe get a little bit complacent. You know, Marvel, they love the cameraman behind the camera as well. Want to be invited back. So let's go a hot take. We'll go with St Kilda. Max King to kick a bag.
Bag of behinds.
More than likely by 2 points.
The best hot take here is that he wants to come back. That's probably the best hot take that we've seen. We've got someone wants to come back. Return customer. Let's go.
For mine, I'm going to go Sydney, but it's a bit of a vested interest of mine. I want Amadi to kick 10 on Josh Battle so that Collingwood can get Josh Battle for unders in free agency as well. So Sydney
You're
by...
playing 4D chess here.
Yes, it's thinking ahead of the time.
2 steps ahead.
A game within a game within the game.
Metagame.
Game's a game.
It is the
But,
game.
yeah, Amadi to kick 10, therefore Sydney win by 60 points. and goodbye, Ross Lyon. It was nice knowing you.
He does it.
That's the big one there.
Jeez, all right. I did not see that one coming. He does not want to come back, David. Only Caleb comes back. Fully.
Margin, I agree with. Yeah, Sydney.
Big one.
Yeah.
Big one.
Don't know about Ross, but
Ross.
I agree with the 60 points.
Mate, Ross is...
Ross the not boss.
Mate, Ross to janitor. Ross's butt cheeks us engrooved into that chair. He ain't going nowhere. Why do I know that? Don't ask me. I have sources. And the last game of the round, the Brisbane Lions hosting the Adelaide Crows at the Gabba. Last time these two met, I'm pretty sure
The draw, wasn't it?
came down to the wire.
Yeah.
It was really close. I'm not sure if it was a draw, but it was really close last time. But this is the Brisbane Lions here, and they had a great win last week. It was gutsy. Melbourne took it up to him, and they managed to find a way in the last quarter to get over the top. Sometimes you have to win ugly, and that's what a good team does. At home, I'm going to go with the Brisbane Lions. I'll go with Paul now.
Lions for me as well. We discussed the songs before, Battle of the same song.
Yep. The same shit song,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So.
But yeah, Brisbane's got the class. They're up and about at the moment. Their form line tracks. Yeah, I don't see anything that'll pop up and surprise us this weekend from that game.
I just want to pump myself up here quickly. I did a ladder predictor in round 12, and I think I'm still, I guess, not quite there yet, but I have Brisbane actually making it to the top 4
Me too.
by the time the season ends.
Me too.
So for that reason, Brisbane by 7 goals at the Gabba.
It's hard to go against Brisbane in the Gabba, even though it's not as much as a fortress as it has been in past years. I reckon they get the job against Adelaide.
There we go, guys. How did we go with the tipping last week? I don't remember. I didn't actually ask you.
Next question.
Mate, I
Yeah.
lucked out. I forgot to put a few tips in. Fremantle worked perfectly for me.
Oh.
my footing comp that I set up. Order defaults you to picking the away team if you don't select, and it worked very favourably for me.
Mate,
Fortunately, Gold Coast were at home.
I look like a genius.
Oh, yeah, you would have got the Gold Coast one wrong then.
I think I corrected my tip. I think the first
You remembered?
I got Friday, missed the first 2 on the Saturday. Worked out nicely for me.
Mate, that's really good. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is us for this episode. A massive thank you once again to Caleb, Anthony, and Paul. Guys, please let our wonderful viewers know where they can find you.
Starting here.
Paul. Yeah.
The Hoops Crew for me. We're on YouTube, we're on socials. Check out all that. Paul James Games on socials as well for myself personally, whether you're looking for Geelong or broader AFL-based stuff or even video game chat. I've got it all there. So go check that stuff out.
Thank you so much, Paul. Did you have fun today?
Oh, it was awesome. It was great to come out. Awesome these rooms that we're in as well. Didn't know about the history of it until we're coming in, but that was really cool as well. But great company. It's been a good show. Thanks for having me aboard, guys.
No worries.
Where can you find us, James?
You can find Anthony and I on Instagram, YouTube at Pies Footy. You can expect a lot of pre-games, post-games, watch-alongs. Anthony does a great job in the documentaries as well, and anything Collingwood related, come to Pies Footy. And yeah, expect me to make a debut on the YouTube as well, maybe later on in the year as well. Just going to get a few things flowing, and you can find me at Pies Eyes Caleb. And yeah, we'll see how we go, boys.
Head on over to Pies Footy if you want to see some nice salty tears after they lose to us on Friday.
We'll be on the watch along as well. So
Where did the glass go? Where did the glass go?
I took it from you for a reason.
The one here. Quick, Scott.
Thank you.
Stone Cold there again.
Bang.
Hope you guys enjoyed watching or listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed recording it, because here on the bench, we have a proper footy chat. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell to not miss out on any of the videos that we pump out on a regular basis. We'll see you all in the next one. Thanks.